by Parisian mobs during the revolt to hurl stones at the homes of perceived enemies. The first phase was known as the Fronde of the Parlement. It was led by members of the Parlement of Paris, which was the chief judicial body in France. The Parlement sought to curb the growing power of the monarchy and prevent the increasing centralization of authority. This Fronde resulted in a short-lived peace treaty, but tensions remained. The final phase was the Fronde of the Nobles. It was led primarily by high-ranking nobles and princes, who were discontented with the central authorities' infringement on their traditional rights and privileges. They felt marginalized from the centralized power structure being developed by Mazarin. This Fronde had more of a military character than the first, with several battles and skirmishes taking place. It ended by 1653 with the victory of the royal forces and the solidification of the monarchy's authority. The Fronde was significant for young Louis. It shaped his perspective on governance and influenced his determination to centralize power, and the avoidance of sharing authority with other nobles. Once he took personal control, he embarked on a policy of strengthening the monarchy at the expense of the nobility and the regional parliaments. To disempower the nobility and those of the royal council, he had them all move into the stunning palace of Versailles, his father's chateau, which he greatly expanded. There, Louis was able to keep an eye on the nobles and princes of the blood, keeping them out of public or political life. Believing in the divine right of kings, he adopted the sun as his emblem, viewing himself as the central, indispensable element in the political system. He concentrated executive, legislative, and judicial powers in his person, proclaiming, "L'état c'est moi," meaning I am the state. With so many nobles living at Versailles along with Louis, he had very little privacy, and most days were filled with court activities and rituals. Nobles were expected to follow a specific etiquette, and often tried to help the king during even mundane daily routines, like handing him his shirt as he was getting dressed. During the latter part of the king's reign, he engaged in several wars, expanding French territory and influence, but also draining the royal coffers. In the Dutch War, also known as the Franco-Dutch War, Louis sought to punish the Dutch Republic, particularly for its economic rivalry and its role in a previous anti-French coalition. France made rapid advances into Dutch territory, but a larger European coalition formed against Louis, slowing his ambitions. The conflict ended in 1678, and France was awarded several territories, further extending its borders. The 9 Years' War, also known as the War of the Grand Alliance, began due to Louis XIV's territorial and dynastic claims in various parts of Europe. A large European coalition, called the Grand Alliance, formed against France, but it served as just a prelude for the most significant and last major war of Louis's reign, the War of the Spanish Succession. Spain's golden age ended with the reign of Philip IV. His only surviving son, Charles II, was born to Philip's own niece, Mariana of Austria. It was common for the Spanish Habsburgs to marry Austrian Habsburgs in order to keep their line intact. Because this had been practiced for generations, Charles was born with an inbreeding coefficient of 0.25, around the same as an offspring from siblings. He was born with physical disabilities, and was most likely sterile, unable to produce an heir. His chin, what became known as the Habsburg jaw, was so prominent, that a British letter describes him like so.
He has a ravenous stomach, and swallows all he eats whole, for his nether jaw stands so much out, that his 2 rows of teeth cannot meet.
Once he died in 1700, the line of